So I got this date with a book from my girlfriend, because I've been talking about it for a while now, like forever, because the bookstore started doing it, and then they stopped, and then I started complaining every time I went by the bookstore, and I suppose she got tired of me, just a bit, so she decided to surprise me with this one here from the bookstore, because they started up again, and yeah, that's about. So they have blind date with a fantasy, dark fantasy, romance, dark romance, and she chose fantasy. So let's see what that is. Hopefully it's not a book we already have, but we'll see. A journey through the 60-mile long ghost of a dragon is the first text we see. Gog Magog by Jeff Noon and Steve Beard. Alright. We don't have this book at all. So let's say what the background side is. A journey through the 60-mile long ghost of a dragon. Caddy Me, captain of the steam launch, Juniper. So it's steampunk-esque. I mean, I guess you could tell from the style. Cool. I love the cover. The cover in the two-tone with the dragon-looking thing in like shaded in the background. It looks so sick. Definitely excited for reading this one. So need to transport thing. Seaport. So it's maybe not perfectly steampunk, but probably just more seafaring adventures. That also sounds fun. Alright, let's get reading and let's take a look at the book and see if it was worth the buy. I don't think I've ever read a book where the main character is 70, but holy crap, Katie is funny. She's everything you would want for an old and poor retired sailor in your fantasy book. It's quite fun seeing everything from her angle. The book is a weird sci-fi steampunk mix, not really set in a specific time. Well, it feels like it's set after World War One, but it's still not that specific. We have steamboats, but robots and different types of humans, genetically engineered, it seems like. It's a bit confusing in the beginning, but the author duo of Jeff Noon and Steve Beard does manage to keep it interesting and intriguing instead of off-putting. The more we get of Katie interacting with other people, the better in my opinion. The way she talks and behaves is just so fun to read. Not that she spreads joy, it's quite the opposite actually. She's absolutely ruthless, but towards Sabrina we do see a nicer side of her. So we got both magic, steampunk and sci-fi in this book. That's quite the mixture. I can't wait to see how that goes. The magic in this book is weird but kinda cool. It seems to be very loose with few rules, but it works. It's not the focus it seems, and it just adds a little spice to the world. Also, it was kind of a revelation that Katie is actually 1400 years old. She's so old, that's wild. And she's seen everything, and I suppose that does explain a lot of her knowledge and her character, but it's just wild to me. Because it's rare for your main character to be an old lady. And so usually when a character is like 1400 years old, they still act like they're mid-20s. But here the character is 1400 years old and is like 70. Now, something this book does really well is how people speak. Katie does really good, does really sound like an old sailor, and all her profanities are so good. She swears, but it's in the funny way. She reminds me of Captain Haddock from Tintin, with all those profanities. And other than profanities, we also get like slang and dialect people speak with. You can clearly hear Bryn and Leg are from a like higher social class than Katie is, and also than Janish. And it comes off easily in how they talk and the expressions they use. Even the cadence feels different, and it's a treat that someone understands it so well. Talking of characters, the reason I haven't really discussed any of the other crew members is because for the most part they don't feel like people. Now this is because this is a narrative and main character driven story, not a general character story. But I do want to talk about Bryn. She is sweet and funny and just a little cutie. I'm happy that she acts like a 10-year-old, especially given her past. It would be easy for the authors to make her like a mini adult given her past, but I'm glad they didn't. Now let's get back to the story. We then get to the fight scene between Leg and Meat, and I got no comments. It's fine and interesting, but not really anything special. I think it was needed for the story, but nothing else. However, the scene where we get the backstory of Leg and Bryn, that's where the story got interesting. It's sad, but to me it shows this. It's sad, but to me it is how the scene between Katie and Leg plays out. That's interesting. I love the dynamic. I think the way they talk with each other and discusses things, that's what's interesting. Not necessarily the thing itself. I don't quite know what to think about now Katie being revealed to being ready to have children or flowers or whatever. Because my first thought was just like, what the fuck? This was so weird to me. Like, what the hell am I supposed to do with this? So let's just move away for it for a bit. When Katie and Bryn was talking about Katie's past and Goch Magog, I assume, I was hoping we would get some more information on what was going on, but we didn't. And as for the final thing in this section, the crew gets to the village that is inside the ghost, and that's weird. All of the different types of humans is a little confusing, given that it doesn't really make a difference. But these clay people that are on fire are even weirder and more confusing. I get that this book is going for like a minimalistic world building, but it would still be nicer with some kind of explanation for things. Like all these different types of humans, really you could have written Asian, African, South American, European, Scandinavian, like you could have written all of that and it would have made equal as much sense, except for all the random magical things, but it's just, to me it's confusing to read, and so it's difficult to keep track of which type of human does what. But let's get to part 2. Now, when Bryn called forth the visage of the dragon, she also showed a smaller second one, and it fit with the description we get of the dragon, that these people have started to worship these fire humans inside the ghost. I don't remember their name. But yeah, which we learn is Goch Magog. The scene with them chanting and praying to a statue of Goch Magog is chilling, and finally escape away from the fanatic believers, where we then end the section. Oh, I put this in the wrong one. Guess you get it here. Gotta admit, the book has its highs and lows now. So far, it doesn't quite feel like that there is much agency, nor that the characters are driving the plot, which, given the type of story this is, it would be great if they did. I do like the banter and the characters. The authors do a great job for the most part in making them all feel kinda unique and different. Perhaps at times underdeveloped, but not bad. The story is interesting and the world is super unique, but it feels underdeveloped, and I feel like we need more lore in this world. And I have a difficult time discussing this because, like this section, because so much is happening. Each chapter is almost its own little self-contained novella or vignette. But here also lies one of the major problems with this book, especially in the second part. It feels like lightly connected vignettes and not a coherent story. When a chapter ends and the next starts, a nondescript amount of time and number of events have passed. It makes for a jarring read at times, but also means a lot of minor details are told, not shown. For instance, Katie loses a bowler hat at one point, super minor point, not needed for the story, but we're told, we aren't shown when that happens. In general, it feels like this book is missing a lot. We're kinda back to the underdeveloped argument from earlier. A byproduct of this vignette style of writing is we don't have a good sense of time. There's also a clear time frame of about 1.5 days, but with all the time skips, it's difficult to suspend your disbelief that the amount of things happening is only taking place in a time span of less than 48 hours. It also doesn't help that if you remove those smaller time slips, then the pacing of this book is revealed to be insanely high, but you don't get that feeling. I had to remind myself multiple times that the story is only over 1 day. We do later in the section get some world building when the bots on Katie, where Alfred explains what they mean, but it's so vague, it really doesn't matter. I would love to learn more about them actually, and at times learn more about them actually being aliens but mixed with humans. Not like what was that about? The book is confusing, the entire world is confusing, and at times it feels like it's contradicting itself. But I understand so little of what's going on, so I can't tell for certain. We also have other types of pseudo-humans. Are they pseudo-humans or what are they? Finally, I want to talk about the ending. Not what happened directly, but the openness of it. I know it's a sequel bait, but I always hate it when books do it. Okay, that's not true. I hate when books I don't care for do it. And that's what's happening here. And that's what made me realize that I don't care for this book. I don't want to read the next one. I don't like sequel baiting. So this conclusion is kind of two-parted, because it's also about dating, like blind date with a book concept. I love it. I want to do it more. I think it's interesting. I'm glad my girlfriend got me the book, because it allowed me to read this book, even if it's not my favorite. It got me out of my comfort zone. I got to read a book I would never have picked up, and I'm glad for that. It challenged my view of it, and I want to do the 3 other genres, which, to remind you, this one was the fantasy one, then there's dark fantasy, romance, dark romance. I want to do the 3 others too. I think it could be fun seeing the books. Maybe do more of the fantasy one too. I don't know yet. But just to see, because it's interesting. But I do want to say, do I think you should read Gog Magog? No, I don't think it's very good. I think it's underdeveloped. I think the characters are interesting. I think the story on a surface level is super interesting. But if you start thinking too much about it, it gets really, really bad. And also, I don't like the vignette style that we're using. I think it makes it difficult when you have a set time frame to keep track of what's going on. And I would have loved for more development of characters and for this concept of other types of humans and aliens and stuff. Generally, the book is weird. It's very, very weird, and it's interesting. It has a lot of things going. It's just underdeveloped. You should probably have twice the length of this to make it fit. It will probably also fix the breakneck pacing that it's going at. Anyways, please leave a like, comment and subscribe.